All right, so hopefully I can get my slides up, and I'm going to be talking about building a NotebookLM alternative, fully open source, and hopefully I can inspire some of you to try it out. Without further ado, this is me. My name is Twana, although you just had an introduction, and I have been with LlamaIndex since May. So, why NotebookLM? Well, NotebookLM is pretty cool. If you have not used NotebookLM yet, I am going to show you quickly what it's all about. And this whole talk is about realistically what are the abstractions we need to actually build an alternative to NotebookLM. So this is NotebookLM. When you start up a notebook in NotebookLM, you're greeted by this kind of page where you're asked to drag and drop maybe a file, or you can also link it up to your Google Workspace, provided some URLs, YouTube links, or just simply just copy-paste content in there. And what you get out of it is actually a lot of stuff. So here you see me the other day. I've provided a document on an IKEA guide to build a kitchen. And you have a summary here. You can do some question answering, and you can do so much more. On the right-hand side, you see that you can get an audio overview. You can get sort of flashcards for an FAQ. You can get even a video generated. And one of our favorites, you can also create a mind map out of the whole context present in your document, which is a great way to abstract over all of the information present in your document and kind of make it easier to think about. So we set ourselves a challenge. And we also decided to make our lives a bit difficult by setting ourselves these challenges, because we really wanted to focus on creating an alternative, but we wanted to make sure we were doing it justice. So these are the three main things we wanted to focus on. We wanted to be able to provide complex documents. And when I say complex documents, I'm talking about documents that maybe that have tables, images, what I love to call a layout bonanza, because not every document is uniform in the layout. We also wanted to make it, and this is, I'm going to show you later what was really the pain. We wanted to make it reusable, especially the functionality and tools that we were building. Again, this is an open source project. We wanted it so that you can go ahead and use any of those tools and functionality separately without it having to be our project that you're using it with. And finally, and you'll see why this is important, we also wanted to have some level of control over the flow, which is where things start to differ to what you might perceive as classic agents, where agents get all the agency to decide what to run when. We wanted to make it so that we had a bit more control over the process. And it so happens that I work at a company that provides many tools and products that help us get to this project and make it easy to build. So I'm going to talk about LlamaIndex very briefly. We have two main sets of products at LlamaIndex. A lot of you, I hope some of you, know about LlamaIndex, the open source framework that allows you to build your own agents and design your own logic. That is our open source framework. That is one layer. But we also have Llama Cloud. And Llama Cloud has quite a few products now. It's growing every day. Which provides tools and products that allow you to parse complex documents, extract structured information out of them. You can also use Llama Cloud as your own vector store that you manage, that you use to chunk and embed your own documents as well. So great, we have some ingredients to start the process. So we set off, and the two main Llama Cloud products that we initially started with are Llama Parse and Llama Extract. So one thing we wanted to do is make sure that users that want to use what we now are going to from now on call NotebookLlama could be able to upload documents of any shape or form. So Llama Parse is super useful here. We don't worry if there's any tables, images, layout differences at all. And also Llama Extract. Llama Extract is my favorite out of the bunch. I love working with it, and a lot of the times we see people use Llama Extract in situations that are probably a lot more boring than what we're going to be talking about today, but we often see Llama Extract being used in situations like this, where you may have long, complex financial documents. And really, the thing that you want to focus on is a set of information that you want to extract from it, and you really don't care about the rest. So we have here the SEC filing by NVIDIA, and we want to get from that complex PDF and just focus on a few key components from it. And you can do that in a few ways. You can either go ahead and select one of the predefined schemas we have in Llama Cloud, or if you're like me and you prefer being in code, you can go ahead and do the following, where you have a Pydantic schema. And what's important here, not only are you defining the schema, so also the data types that you're after, but you're also providing a model, again, of your choosing, a description as to what it should be looking for within the document. And this description is used to then go and extract that relevant information. And then you can go ahead and create what we call an extraction agent. You can either, again, do this within Llama Cloud or in code. You deploy an extraction agent, which can then be reused over and over again. And so here you see my extract agent for SEC filings. Now, what we noticed is that we can actually start using our very own Llama extract to start off with the creation of the initial NotebookLlama, where, again, like you saw in the original NotebookLM, you had FAQs ready, you had a mind map ready, a summary ready, etc. We decided to go ahead and use Llama extract as a way to start the notebook up. And you'll notice here we've defined a schema where we're asking for a summary of the document, highlights, so bullet point highlights of the context in the document. We're asking for questions and answers. So that's step one. And the next thing we decided to do was make use of our framework, our open source framework, specifically the workflows, because this is a way that we can define our sort of business scope, what the agent is able to do and not able to do, and we're able to kind of architect the pathway that our application is taking without it relying on an LLM to make a decision in the first place. So we're going to see how our workflow is built a bit later on, but this is the point I want to shout out Clelia, because this is really her brainchild. This is my colleague Clelia. You can follow her on LinkedIn if you like. She's our open source engineer, and she put a lot of effort into NotebookLlama. So I hope you like it, and I hope you decide to contribute to it in the end as well. So what does NotebookLlama do? NotebookLlama, I want to point out again that this presentation, I'm definitely not presenting to you a finalized, polished product that just exists and that you can go ahead and use. Of course, you can go ahead and use it, but really our aim is that this is a start, and if you do want to contribute or you see that something's missing, it's not the complete NotebookLM replica, obviously, so please do feel free to contribute to it. And we do a few things. We do have our mind map generation. That's the first thing we decided to implement. We can ask questions and do QA over files. We're going to have a look at it in a bit. We can extract tables and images as well. We have podcast generation. We've very recently added observability to the product as well. And now I'm going to quickly show you what we can do with it. All right, so I've decided I'm not running this entirely live because I don't trust the Wi-Fi. So this is something I've done just before. And I'm going to just increase this. So here you see me uploading the IKEA kitchen guide. Once you've uploaded it, very similar to NotebookLM, we're getting a summary, we're getting bullet points, we're getting an FAQ, and we're getting a mind map that I have to be careful when I scroll over because it moves around a lot. Our mind map does not look as sleek, as you may see. It does not look as sleek as NotebookLM, but nevertheless, we have it. You also have document management, where you can look at previously uploaded documents. This is the same one, so it's not very interesting. I've tried the IKEA kitchen guide many times. And we also have document chat. So here, again, is me asking the question, what are the main steps I should take to install countertops in my new kitchen? And what I get is a very sort of in-depth answer with citations, and I can also look into a bit more detail about what the sources are and why it's claiming that this is the best way to install countertops. Now, before I switch back to the presentation, one quick thing I want to point out is, let's not worry about the PDF loading, but here we see our extraction results of the IKEA kitchen guide. You saw earlier the schema that I had defined. The schema is right here, and here is the result. And you'll notice that these are the exact results you saw in the UI for NotebookLlama as well. This is how we set up the notebook. We get the extracted summary, highlighted bullet points, question and answers, and that's basically our entry point into NotebookLlama. With that, let's switch back and go on. All right, so I'm going to focus on explaining to you two main components of NotebookLlama. So let's first start off with the first homepage where we load the file and we generate the initial notebook with the mind map and the bullet points, etc. So how does that all look? We want to result in the image you see on the right-hand side. So we want to start with a PDF. Next, we want to be able to generate some sort of mind map. And next, we want to generate the whole notebook with the summary and bullet points, etc. So actually, by thinking about this, we've already kind of described to ourselves exactly what the logical flow should be, ideally. And how do we do that? In LlamaIndex, we have an abstraction called Workflows, which is a class that you can extend to create any workflow. And a workflow really consists of two main things. You'll notice here that there are methods called steps, and steps are expecting events, and they can also emit events. In this case, you see a one-path system where we have 3 steps, each of them are expecting a certain event. But the cool thing is we can define our own events completely from scratch. So what we did is define 3 events. We've defined our own custom start event. We call that file input event, which is simply a file name. We want to end up with a stop event, which is, again, our custom stop event, and we've called that notebook output event. You'll notice that the notebook output event has the mind map, summary, highlights, etc. as well. And intermediate, we have a mind map generation event. This is, again, custom code by my colleague Clelia, where she used the summary and highlights to generate a mind map from scratch. Now we have the steps, we have to actually put it in some logical order. So again, we define our own custom steps. And the first step in the process is a step that we call extract file data. This is expecting the file input event, and it can actually branch out. We account for failures, so maybe a mind map wasn't generated for some reason, in which case we return the notebook output event, which is an empty notebook with maybe a message indicating as to why a failure happened. But if not, and if we're successful, we actually return the mind map event, mind map creation event. Next, we actually have an event called generate mind map. And this is where, in a successful scenario, we are able to generate the mind map, and now we can create what we call the notebook output event. Now, one thing you may have noticed here is actually most of the logic is within MCP tool calls. And the reason for that is the challenge we set ourselves in the first place. And we wanted to make sure that any sort of custom logic we were building into this application, we could actually put it into an MCP server and provide them as MCP tools. So if you like the functionality that you see and you want to extend the repository in any sort of way, you can use all of those tools in isolation or go ahead and actually use the mind map generator with maybe Claude. So that's the reason why we decided to put all of the main functionality in MCP tools. So let's have a look at our first tool, which we call the process file tool. And the most important thing here is the description. If you've been using MCP tools and servers with your MCP clients, you'll know that the description is pretty important because it's the one thing that the LLM has to use to decide whether it's time to run that tool or not. So we've described it as this tool is useful to process files and produce summaries, question answers, and highlights. So what's going on here is, again, you might notice there's an extract agent. This is the point in time in our workflow where we call our extraction agent to return all of the highlights and FAQs. We already have our extraction agent deployed in Llama Cloud. We don't have to worry about that. But when we hit this point in our workflow, we call that extraction agent and we wait for a structured output. Once we have that, we're done, and we can actually start generating the initial notebook. Next thing is the document QA functionality you saw. And this we manage with Llama Cloud indexes as our sort of database, our vector store, if you will. And we also make use of claim verification. And for that, we have Llama Cloud indexes, which you can connect up to any of your own vector stores. And once you have your data there, you get to decide when you're at the RAG process where you want to do retrieval augmented generation or claim verification, etc. This is where we again picked to use our LlamaIndex open source framework, because this allowed us to make it so that you can switch around models easily, maybe build it into a completely different workflow if you wish to do so as well. So how does that look? Again, we've wrapped this in an MCP tool. We've described it as very simply query a Llama Cloud index. But you'll notice here we're pulling in a query engine called Citation Query Engine from the LlamaIndex framework. The LLM is again switchable, and the retriever is our Llama Cloud index. And simply, this tool is run whenever there's a question from a user, and we return the answer to the user in the UI as well. All right. Finally, I want to talk about something we've been working on very recently, is that now we've made it so that you can, if you have already an MCP server running with tools running, and you want to use pre-configured workflow agents with LlamaIndex, you can bring them in as any other tool. You might provide a Python agent or a function agent as well. So you don't have to define any tools and functions yourself. From now on, we've made it so that if there is an MCP tool out there that you want to use, you're free to do so with a LlamaIndex workflow or a predefined agent. The same thing is valid for all of the Llama Cloud tools that we mentioned throughout this presentation, including Llama Extract, any extract agent that you create with Llama Cloud, you can run as its own individual MCP tool. The same goes for indexes. Any indexes you may have within Llama Cloud, you can run as an MCP tool, and you describe it with your own custom definition. And that is a video of me explaining the whole process. And this is, again, an open source tool, an open source server that you can run yourself. And with that, the whole point of this presentation was hopefully that you'll try out NotebookLlama. I hope that you contribute to it, and also it's a great way to discover basically all of the products we have with LlamaIndex and Llama Cloud. So with that, thank you very much.